Alright, taking on Sergey TL once more. I know I've played him before, so I think this game I'm going to play something a little bit different. I'm going to play the Nimzowitsch Defense with d5. Now we can get, interesting Caro and or French-like structures when he pushes past with e5, or you get weird Scandinavians with e takes d5. Okay. I've enjoyed tinkering around with this opening a little bit. This knight tends to be a little bit misplaced, but you do get sort of expedited queenside deployment, and sometimes you castle long, play f6, and sometimes you can get kind of opposite sides castling and very sharp pawn storms. At least an interesting game. So I'm going to go ahead and start trying to break down his structure and follow up with queen d7, maybe castles long, maybe knight e7 to g6. Okay, so this knight came out to d2. He's basically setting up an advanced French structure here. Now, should I be trying to castle long or maybe castle short? Let's start by developing, and I can remain flexible. For some reason, h5 is shouting out to me here. Also wonder whether I should be taking here. Probably not. Probably leave the tension for the time being. Although, if I take, I do get to fix a pawn here. Then I can play knight g6, develop the bishop, castle short if I want to. He might be sort of threatening this. Although then I can play bishop e4 if need be. I think I probably shouldn't take and give him this square. So what about knight g6? Very simple. Making sure this bishop doesn't run out of squares. So knight g6, something like h4. I can play this. Or sorry, knight g6, h3, threatening g4. I can play h5 myself if need be, and I also have the e4 square. So let's go ahead and do this. I think it's reasonable. Just deploying the knight to where it targets the center and opens up this bishop. Bishop d3. So I can take and play f5, arranging my pawns on the square of the bishop I just traded off, which doesn't seem terrible. I could also play this, exchange the bishop off against one of the knights, which in a closed structure makes a little bit of sense as well. Play bishop e4, but what does that actually do? So takes, maybe just maintain this. Does he want f5 there? I need to start picking up the pace. I wonder if this knight should be coming around. But no, in the interest of time, let's take here. And now do I want f5? I'm going to play fairly provocatively, castle long, leave this tension for the time being. I can block things later if I want to. Okay. Sort of expecting an f5, but so now should I be taking here, making him put a pawn on that square, and then I can play on the f-file. Maybe takes. Maybe he wants to take the d pawn and give himself this square. But I think I need to keep things open over here. Start with this. Probably b4. Yeah, I need to start my counterplay fairly quickly here. So how do I arrange this? Let's break open the center. I think you should take this way and open. Okay, so it doesn't. I'm fairly happy to see that. This knight actually isn't doing too much here, but neither are any of my pieces. So I'm gonna have to start playing fairly intuitively. So here, I guess I have b6. Can I consider sacking here and sacking here? Probably not. maybe this, and try to exchange off some pieces. This, and then I can get my g-pawn running. Don't think I should be so concerned about this, and stopping it just gives him a hook to prise things open, so I'm not going to do that. I'll just maintain my structure here, and I really need counterplay very quickly here. Can reroute this knight around, that's going to take ages. I can go for c5, which is interesting, but then I have to come back. I'm not actually hitting this, am I? Here takes, I think I'm going to do this and just try to drag his rook away from the a file. So it takes, I guess I insert this, or maybe not. I'm not sure. Let's take back and see if he wants to take on h7. Opening up the h file. Okay. So this, I can bring the knight around. Maybe I should go ahead and do that. Although then he has this. I can go here, takes. That's a bit of an issue. This bishop here. So knight here, g3. Maybe I have to start with this, but that's quite ugly. Okay, I'm gonna come back because I need to be able to reroute this knight. And maybe it can also serve a defensive purpose, bolstering my queen side, or my king that's on the queen side. But really, I'm just trying to play knight e7 to f5 without getting this bishop caught. Yeah, but it seems like White's pawn storm is coming quite a bit faster than mine. So I really need to tamper down his initiative. Ooh. Okay, so he does go for that pawn, which honestly is not so stupid. Because now I can't play knight e7 because he takes here. Although, honestly, in for a penny, in for a pound, I think I have to just go for it, allow him to capture, go for the g file, play down another pawn, but I just need to get my play going. And now I have access to some squares over here. I can also consider swinging my queen around via e8. Plays here. I'm going to get another tempo with this bishop. I think I should go here. And how's he defend both of these things is the question. Actually, how does he protect his queen? You played that very quickly. I don't understand why you played it that quickly and didn't even consider what I was planning there. But okay. If you play that thoughtlessly and that carelessly, you're going to eventually drop something. Okay, well that's a bit disappointing the way that came to a rather anticlimactic conclusion, but because I thought it was shaping out to be a pretty interesting game. Yeah, White's better here. Yeah, normally I'm willing to cede White a small advantage. Yeah, the engine is always going to give these positions like a +1 or something, just because White has a lot more space. But it's an imbalanced game, and it's an interesting structure that I enjoy playing from time to time when I don't want to go back into a Sicilian. It seems like he played a fairly clean game, but then he was just playing too quickly. So how could I have improved in this, though? I think probably around this point, I need to find a better plan. Yeah, h5. h5 was speaking to me for some reason. Just carving out some territory over here and maybe giving my bishop a space to drop back to. I kind of wonder if I do go for this. Let's say he plays the same thing. How am I following up here? What's my plan? Takes, and then knight comes in f5. Okay, so h5 is kind of a preparatory move for getting rid of this bishop, exchanging it off, and then bringing the knight to f5 where it sits very comfortably and can no longer be chased away by g4. So this makes some sense. h5, and then I'm basically just committing to not castling kingside. Let's say he doesn't trade things off. Let's say he just starts developing. H4. This is interesting. So supposing he stops me, at least I have some dark squares. And now, once he moves this knight, I can target this knight. So this would be a really interesting structure, actually, if he takes here. So this pawn is a little bit wayward, but it also can be quite a big thorn in his side, and I'm not sure how he scoops that up so readily. And if really need be, if I have to defend it, I can always play knight e7 f5, but e3 is also somewhat menacing. Okay, so I should keep this in mind, this h5 h4 idea. Yeah, knight g6, knight doesn't really belong here because I'm not able to break this down in time. And if I'm not able to break down this structure, then the knight has very little sense on g6. And it just kind of gets in the way of everything. So it really needs to be deployed to f5. And that's why the engine is suggesting moving this bishop and then getting the knight to f5, where it's a lot more active and actually has a function. Okay, so this knight should be coming to f5. That's one thing. And I ended up casting long, which, yeah, it just gives him an easy target to attack. The engine saying I really need to get something to f5, and now maybe I can play for c5 in some sort of French. I wonder if it plays it immediately. Probably not, because he can take it, and then he has access to this square, so that'd be pretty terrible, actually, right? Yeah, because then he can just hop in here. So it says deploy this knight to f5, and then probably I'm following up bishop e7 castle short, and later on I can play for c5 and play for a French where I'm breaking down the structure from the sides. Okay, we get something that's fairly normal for this Nimzowitsch with opposite sides castling. And here I should be trying to slow down his play, because this knight is always misplaced, and it's going to take a while to reroute it to where it wants to be on f5. This makes some sense because it's, for one thing, stopping a5 just by blockading it, and for another thing, it's discouraging b4 in his pawn storm. It kind of holds that up because then I have access to c4. Like if he goes and plays this, then the knight becomes quite powerful. Become transmuted from c6 onto c4 into, yeah, much more powerful minor piece. I like this idea. Yeah, a little bit counterintuitive to me, but concretely, I think it makes a lot of sense. Just coming into this square and holding up his play. Yeah, and here maybe black can play more precisely, but if I'm not finding this way to stymie his play, yeah, then I think his pawn storm is just coming way too quickly. Yeah, and in the game, I was just casting it off for a plan and for some active counterplay, which I was hard pressed to find. And I thought a6 here would just give him a hook, just b4, b5, way too easy to price things open. So I tried just to clear up some lines over here, but yeah, it's just too slow, far too slow. And the engine's saying he can just scoop these pawns up. His king is perfectly safe. Yeah, but I was throwing caution to the wind, just trying to open things up because I knew if I just stayed put and if I like protected my pawns slowly and didn't clear lines over here, then I was just going to get steamrolled over here on the queen side. So I was willing to invest a couple of these pawns just to open the G and H file and try to get something going. But yeah, as the engine points out, it's just I don't have anything going. I don't have an attack. Okay, so yeah, he fell into the trap of playing against my clock. So I got a little bit lucky with this, but so the takeaway, I guess, is that the knight is misplaced on g6. I should be putting it to f5, and then maybe later on I can play for c5. And also this knight a5 idea is quite nice. Okay, so a couple of decent takeaways from that game. Thanks for watching.